Alright, welcome everybody to another update. I really appreciate from the last video, there was a lot of support and a lot of people who were really interested in doing more of these updates. So I'm gonna go straight into this, and yeah, this is a really fascinating scene right now. A lot of things going on in Tropics. I'm just on this current loop at the moment because I have updated my analysis now for Typhoon Krathon, or Super Typhoon Krathon, at Category 5 with winds of 116 miles per hour and a pressure of about 920 millibars. Is definitely looking much more better in the most recent frame. Proves the point. It's gotten under a few hour replacement cycles in the first early stages, as clearly shown there, that it clearly had a secondary eye wall and it contracted, and now it's gone past that and it's had a few failed eye wall replacement cycles, and it's definitely looking like it's peaking now, for the next few hours it will probably be peaking, and then it will go back down because of wind shear, which can be seen right here. Alright, so some mid shear graphics that can clearly demonstrate this, that there's about 15 knots that will or so of mid shear, so that's the sort of like mid-level winds that will be going on the opposite direction, and that will knock down those thunderstorm tops, and even the mid levels between the thunderstorm tops, that will impact them quite significantly. And the deep shear will, however, remain on the lower side, so it's definitely more of a case of the mid shear values, but still it's not extremely significant. The most significant impact can be the dry air entrainment by the Taiwanese mountains and the landfall itself. But even from this infrared SWIR image, you can clearly see a very clear eye, and the CDO is the very dense high cloud top, about -80s, and we can see like the most recent frame, clear -80 wraparound of this new CB burst banding that's coming across, a clear eye about what I was reading about earlier, about 16 degrees Celsius, could even be higher due to uncertainty fluctuations, and we see clear banding structure and new CBs continually dragging around the bottom side of the circulation, and there's a clear persistent CDO ring which is in the -80 range, which is clearly evident of Category 5 near range at least, and for sure this thing could go a little bit higher, but on landfall it should weaken somewhat because of the conditions. JTWC does weaken it quite a bit to Category 3, I believe, but it might even stay at Category 4, to be honest, but because of the slow moving motion it might weaken quite a bit because of that, and upwelling could be a bit of a concern as well. One of the things is that the water vapor clearly in the eye is starting to dry out more, and I do believe that you don't need a Category 5 with the clearest eye, and there's a few systems every now and then. I'm not sure, I think there's Rai, I know a little bit about, in 2021 didn't have the clearest of eyes. I do believe that was an example, but yeah, water vapor imagery clearly shows that the drying of the eye is occurring, but it's not necessarily very deep, but obviously it's a little bit influenced by the cloud cover above the eye right now, but generally it is in what I'd consider pretty low end, like high end ranges, or essentially low the temperatures are going lower and lower. So currently this is probably around an extrapolated -23 degrees Celsius in the eye, but it definitely is going to dry out even more, which will definitely suggest a lot more intensification is possible, but we will see. And one of the things also is that there should be some sort of catching trailing front here, that because of the slow moving nature and this system doesn't really have any steering current, major steering current, one of these fronts might catch along and cause it to do the recurve northwards as it's supposed to do here. So here there's the JTWC forecast, and clearly there's a little bit of a northwards swing. It's a little bit southwest of currently where the JTWC believe it was in the last update, but clearly it's going to get pulled northwards across Taiwan. It does not weaken much according to their forecast, but that could fluctuate. And of course, one of the things is that this is in low steering current, so it could bring very high on the eastern quadrant, where the most of the precipitation is, and cause that to cause a lot of landslides and other sort of terrain issues, as it causes over 200 millimeters of rain at minimum on the eastern side of Taiwan. Current satellite estimates, which are a little bit over an hour, unupdated, but the most recent ones are starting to show like towards the super typhoon range. Mine's obviously a little bit upper end because this is a lot before the current state of the most recent satellite imagery that proves to be a lot more significant than what the satellite estimates are of a few hours ago. So clearly these will also go up, and I'll be updating that on my Twitter page. Yeah, and here like there's a lot of previous updates of all Krathon, and there'll be a few new updates on Kirk as well, which we'll discuss at the latter part of the video. So landfall is expected to be near Kaohsiung. I do believe if I might be saying that wrong, but it's going to be about north of that region, and this is an area that's not experienced major typhoon landfall, so it's going to be completely new. And so the eastern side, these areas like Yanpu, Jiru, Neipu, Maja, and Taiwu and Wutai, they're all going to be on the eastern side, which will get the significant winds and a lot of the heavy rainfall. And this is a large system, so it will expand out quite a large range with larger windfield radii. Looking at T Dvorak, overall raw estimates already at T7, which is about 178 miles per hour. So clearly that it's on the higher end already, and I think so. And definitely one of the things is that the system is almost like it's got a very well defined circular shape, which obviously supports this raw T Dvorak. And clearly the cloud-based temperature average is already at -77. Obviously there's a lot of different areas that fluctuate with much higher CVs as well. Clearly here in the R64 quadrant, it's got the wind field's gone down a little bit in the R64 quadrant, but clearly around 50 miles from the centre, which is quite a large area, and so the eastern side is obviously the heavier side as well. And one of the things is also the tropical storm wind field expands out quite a large range out, and the R34 tropical storm force wind field expands out that way, and clearly it's moving quite slowly, about 4 miles per hour. And one of the things here that the Dvorak clearly seeing, which has caused it to upgrade to this raw T Dvorak score, is a symmetrical CDO cooling, and with a higher cloud tops measuring on the northeastern quadrant, where the strongest part of the wind field is going to be anyways. And the eye positions, the ADT and arch positions are a little bit off now because of the updates, but the center is about here as to what they're suggesting in the thing. So it's generally going a little bit more west, and so it could make it landfall a little more westwards. Alright, so we have the Dvorak scene type analysis, and then the eye. This is between the phase of the eye replacement cycle and afterwards. It's going to rapid increase. The ADT scene type is going upwards. This is a little bit unupdated, but still, it clearly suggests that the eye scene type is rapidly increasing. And the eye is a little bit obscured by mesovortices that have been rotated by the centre of low pressure, but and also the eye has been a little bit shrunk by the large banding that's wrapped around the eastern side. That's kind of pushed it inwards. But clearly at times now we're starting to see a pinwheel type movement on a satellite imagery loop perspective that shows a category 5 sort of representation for eye scene type. It's not necessarily rapid intensification now, because of and one of the things is the OHC values are starting to drop now towards 50 units, as opposed to the higher range it was down here. But that's still on the low moderate range, which still can provide enough fuel for the intensification that is going through, and the upward lane will be slow, despite it also translating northwards slow. Alright, so we have a couple of other systems that there's no imagery of Tropical Storm Kirk on here, but we have Jebi, which is also forecasted to become a typhoon, and we'll check out this analysis right now. Alright, so the latest JWC only shows a severe tropical storm 70 miles per hour, but there is a likely update to upgrade to 75 miles per hour at least for Category 1 Typhoon, and this system has been upgraded to about 60 miles per hour just recently, and so it is in the intensification phase currently, and generally it should persist away from Japan, so it won't be a land threat. On the other hand, there is Kirk, which is going to be a major hurricane according to the NHC's latest update to 125 miles per hour winds. I do suspect that this is an underestimate, of course. Like Helene, it's hard to forecast rapid intensification processes because they only kept fluctuating around the Category 3 range, and obviously it became around 30 miles per hour greater. So this system could easily become a category mid-range Category 4, and I'm likely to see that. And we'll go through that right now. Alright, so we're going to use GFS as the intensity forecast because the GFS generally does a good job. So Joyce here is dissipating, and Isaac's the tropical storms also become extratropical anyways. And in the longer range, what we see here is also that 40%, I believe. Yeah, it's 10 to 40 now, and this one's a 50 to 90, and that system is shown here by later GFS run to develop. But then here we clearly see two powerful hurricanes on an area with disturbed weather here as well, likely to be Kirk and Leslie down to develop, and clearly a very deep low pressure. Before it was even lower, it was like sub 940s, and this system is expected to recurve and carve a way for Leslie to also recurve. The Gulf system clearly is fluctuating because there's few areas of low pressure that keep appearing. It's unsure the GFS yet. A better way to see it is the latest Icon run, which is the 180-hour run. So it clearly shows the forecast to longer range, and the the Icon not necessarily the intensity forecast, but clearly it shows very strong high intensity for Kirk and even Leslie. Leslie is also a little more westwards than the GFS, so it doesn't recurve as quickly. But clearly here we see at least a tropical storm that translates from west to east, and it could be due to the steering flow with the essentially the ridge, and potentially any stalled fronts that might appear, but likely around the ridge, that any sort of ridges that form around and steer around it, and then it will translate northeastwards is what the Icon is saying. And it's only showing one system, which is one of the things that is different, and it shows a tropical storm at this current run, in this most latest run. And the Icon's been a lot more consistent in its idea of the way the system has developed, as opposed to the GFS, which is not understanding the dynamics in play and environmental conditions that are conducive for the system to develop. And the likelihood is the system could form into a low pressure because there's the Central American gyre, which has allowed for lower pressures to form and start to rotate from the cyclogenesis around that region, and will likely form as from a wave axis as well, and that's translating from the Eastern Caribbean. So likely it will develop. The intensity is obviously very uncertain, and the track is very uncertain into the Gulf of Mexico, but there is a clear sign of development in this region that is possible, but it does not look at this current forecast to be as intense, because one of the things is that there's been a 7-day cooling, about 1 degree Celsius, or about 1 degree Celsius in the eastern Gulf of Mexico due to Helene. But one of the things also is that it's structural organization, which is delayed, and likely will be delayed towards landfall. Therefore, it may not necessarily develop as quick yet as of this forecast. The GFS also does show in the longer run an East Pacific sort of storm. It had a quite high intensity going all northwards, low intensity now this way, and it's been going slowly upwards. northwards in translation to where it will come landfall. But this is a very John type situation, so be careful, because John came in, recurved out, and made landfall again, and just clipped along this shore with weak steering current. So this system is also clearly demonstrating the weak steering current, and also could be higher than the intensity, because John became a higher intensity than the GFS forecast by quite a bit due to high uncertainty. So that's got to be on watch when it forms. Alright, so the icon does believe that Krathon, upon its East China Sea redevelopment, will come out still as a weak tropical storm or depression, likely, and then redevelop into a significant typhoon again, of making landfall in China. And it's clearly a flux from what a lot of the guidance is suggesting and uncertain about. So this is a very uncertain forecast, but it's a possible scenario that could occur. And generally, a lot of the systems are unable to develop in this main development region for the Western Pacific and East China Sea due to the current MGO phase. Alright, so this is the latest CPC I can find on the MJO from the velocity standpoint, and from the 200 millibar wind anomalies. We can read what it says here. Upper level velocity pattern has become increasingly disorganized during late September as models such as tropical cyclone activity over the far western Pacific interfered with the interseasonal signal. Suppressed convection of the eastern Pacific may be tied to the evolving base state. More recently, an eastward propagating envelope of enhanced divergence aloft is crossing the eastern Pacific, and that, of course, was related to John. But one of the things that we can see is an anomalous westerly pattern that's been persisting, and is probably likely to be updated to a higher anomalous pattern because of the MGO translation in this region, and it's currently unfavorable in the main region, which is the vast swath of this area in the Western Pacific. But overall, clearly, the main story is going to be Krathon, and the latest frame looks even more impressive now. Honestly, demonstrating that it will probably intensify quite a lot as a Category 5 if this continues and the eye actually clears out even more than this. And the convection around the system is already really well. So as long as it persists and the eye clears out more, and it retains the symmetry, it could really blow up big time. So without further ado, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next update.